Proponents of biblical marriage are predicting increased hostility toward Christians now that 5 Supreme Court justices have voted to redefine marriage in the United States. But the fight for true marriage and religious liberty may be energized by nationwide same-sex marriage.
We can vote to elect pro-marriage representatives. We can make that a real litmus test issue, like the pro-life issue. That'll send a signal to everybody.
Professor Robert George lectures on constitutional law and civil liberties at Princeton University. He tells IllinoisFamily.org that just as the Roe v. Wade decision did not settle the abortion issue in the hearts and minds of Americans, the High Court's landmark 5-4 ruling on marriage will not end the debate on that crucial issue either. He's hoping Christians will now be compelled into action with a long-term goal of restoring marriage.
What you and I and everyone else who believes in the dignity of marriage as the conjugal union of husband and wife will have to do is fight to make sure that what happened in the case of abortion also happens in the case of marriage, and that is that a great movement emerges to say, no, we will not accept this. We will not permit this to be integrated into American life. Same-sex so-called marriage is not marriage at all. It is the replacement of marriage with a new construct. The idea of arranging human relationships as sexual romantic forms of companionship or domestic partnership that are not oriented to children and have no real principled basis even for affirming the traditional norms associated with marriage, such as exclusivity, fidelity, permanence, and so forth. So we have to organize, no matter if it takes 20 years, 40 years, the pro-life movement, we're now more than 40 years, 60 years, 100 years, 200 years, to restore the basic idea of marriage as a conjugal union, a one-flesh partnership of husband and wife that is oriented to children. Marriage, you know, is the relationship that brings together man and woman as husband and wife to be father and mother to any children born of that union, conferring upon those children the inestimable blessing of being brought up in the committed bond, the marital bond of the two people whose coming together gave them life, and giving to those children the gift of maternal and paternal care and influences in their lives. And you know what? That's not just what marriage is in the Western tradition or the biblical tradition or the Judeo-Christian tradition. It's what marriage is everywhere and throughout history. There are many variants, different customs, different rules, different laws, and so forth. But the core understanding of marriage we find across cultures is the one that I just outlined for you. It is utterly incompatible with the idea of marriage as mere adult satisfaction, sexual romantic companionship, or domestic partnership. And because marriage is essential to the flourishing of children, and as such it's going to be essential to the flourishing, the well-being of any society, we owe it in justice to our own descendants, to future generations, to fight for the restoration of marriage and a healthy marriage culture.
Dr. Del Tackett, the creator of Focus on the Family's Truth Project, says the Supreme Court's ruling should prompt church leaders to guide their congregations toward a biblical worldview on marriage. And he says parents must do the same with their children. Dr. Tackett spoke at IFI's recent Worldview Conference.
We will find ourselves increasingly in a culture, just as it was when we found ourselves in a culture that has now legalized abortion. We went from a world where that was perceived to be wrong, it was illegal, and we went now to a world where it was now not only legal, but you, for a while there, were considered to be hostile to women if you were on the side of life. So we're going to find ourselves in a similar situation. Just as we did after Roe v. Wade, we're going to find ourselves in a similar situation where we have a law that stands opposed to what we believe is right. And then we're going to have to find how do we engage under those circumstances.
But with same-sex marriage now the law of the land, Peter Labrada, the president of Americans for Truth About Homosexuality, fears more Christians and faith institutions who do not embrace the gay agenda will soon face persecution.
You will see further efforts by the gay lobby to wipe out dissent, to take away the nonprofit status of pro-family organizations and Christian groups, and even target churches, anybody who opposes homosexuality. This move to censor, which we see all the time, shouting down your opponents, trying to ban people, trying to get Christians fired from their jobs because they disagree with gay marriage or they disagree with homosexuality. The homosexual lobby are becoming the political bullies of our age.
Aaron and Melissa Klein face fines of $135,000 for refusing to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding. Their confectionery shop in Oregon is closed now, and while the Kleins challenge the fines, the parents of 5 children are not backing away from their biblical convictions. They're taking a stand.
It would almost appear as if we have lost the battle for the culture as Christians. I would say that's not true. I say that we can become relevant. I say that we can fight for our rights. I say that we should fight for our rights. And in a situation such as Melissa and myself, it's painfully evident that it's something we do need to do at this juncture. We're not called to win these battles. We're not called to be victorious. Instead, we're called to put on the full armor of God and stand. When we've done all that we can do, stand.
For IllinoisFamily.org, I'm Monty Larrick.